Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Pokernews podcast. It is a very exciting week this week. We've got WSOP news to cover out the wazoo. As everyone knows, I get my news primarily from the social medias, and is it just me, or is my entire social media just full of everyone saying, I miss the World Series, I miss the WSOP? And I'm like, two things, folks. There is a WSOP going on, so get involved. And number two, during the World Series, aren't we all saying we hate it?
Yeah, there is a lot of the, hey, look where I was 1 year ago, on Instagram or on Twitter. And I think we've reached the point where it's WSOP main event week from last year. But Sarah, you're right. I mean, if we were actually at the Rio this year, all we would see would be complaints on July 8th. And instead we say, oh, I miss the Rio so much. I miss the opportunity. So perhaps, keyword, people will be more grateful next year, or maybe at the end of this year, probably next year, when we reconvene again at the Rio for a live World Series of Poker. You hear that, Chad Holloway? I want no complaining out of you next year at the Rio.
I'm not in the same boat as a lot of people because it's still in Vegas. I had to travel here for the World Series of Poker. So I'm certainly getting a little bit a taste of what it was like. Now, I don't have to travel into the Rio every day, but, we're reporting this from the comfort of an Airbnb that we rented. There's a few of us on the Pokernews team doing the updates. And so it's given me a good taste. It feels good to be, kind of back in the reporting trenches and covering these online events. I'm enjoying it more than I thought I would, to be honest, a week in. These events have been fun. There's been good storylines that have arisen out of them, including one about 12 hours ago that you, Jeff, you were electrifying the poker world by going deep in event number 7.
I tried. I mean, just to set the scene for Sarah and company who get their news just off the social media grind. So event number 1 came around. I think we talked the day of, got a big field. I busted. And then that night I saw Phil Hellmuth was making a deep run. Now, with this WSOP.com software, you can only pull up the tables if you're in Nevada or New Jersey. And the World Series of Poker puts on an official final table broadcast through Poker Central with David Tuckman on the call. So I thought, what if I give the people a look at the, featured tables, quote unquote, as we play down to that final table? So it's kind of turned into a thing where every night at 1 a.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Pacific, on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Jeff Platt, be sure to click follow or whatever you do on Twitch. I just pull up some feature tables. I look for the biggest names. We click around, I've got 4 tables going. We just click around to wherever the action is. I talk with the people. It's awesome. And I've still been playing the World Series of Poker, and I was telling them, hey, one day, maybe I'll be running deep and you guys can watch me when we get to the 10 p.m. Pacific time mark. And surprisingly enough, maybe more surprising to me than anybody, last night we ran pretty deep and we had a pretty good stack for most of the tournament. We entered the final table as the chip leader. We lost a couple hands, we lost some more hands, and then the big shebang, we went out in 7th place. So it was a good run in the $800 KO deep stack. It was a fun run. We had a blast on Twitch. Chad, I saw you Disco Chad in the chat. It was just it was an awesome experience overall.
You also collected $2,400 in bounties.
Oh yeah, I got those KOs, baby.
which was the second most, I think, in the tournament, aside from Yoon Kim, who ended up going on to win it. And I'm sure we're going to talk about all sorts of winners coming up here later in the show. But I actually want to talk about big news, non-WSOP related, real quick, because it broke. Literally 15 minutes before we were coming on air, I got word of a settlement in the big Phil Ivey Borgata case, which has been, it's been going on since 2014, maybe 13. The better part of a decade. Yeah, this has been a long-standing thing. We don't often get updates, but it seems that the two parties have come to an agreement, a settlement. Now, people might remember that this $10 million legal battle that's been waging, there was a initial court ruling against Phil Ivey in the Baccarat edge sorting scheme they had with Kelly's son, and they appealed it, right? And so during the appeal, one of the U.S. District Courts of New Jersey had the initial ruling, by the way, and then it was appealed. They ended up having oral arguments in the case. I think it was back in September, and Ivey's side gained a little momentum in that, it seemed. That was kind of the last thing that was reported. And then after those oral arguments, that was ruled that the parties should go into mediation. So there's a mediation program that they should do. And it was through that mediation program that they have reached a settlement. Now, the terms of this settlement haven't been made clear, and it's still got to work its way through the court system. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like we're finally going to get the, to the end of the Phil Ivey Borgata saga.
Wow.
It's not just Borgata, though. Am I right? So he already has had a whole other series of litigations and court battles going on in the UK, right? Which did not work out in his favor.
Right. And that's through Crockford's in London. And, this was the edge sorting and the baccarat thing was kind of something they did at casinos kind of around the world by all accounts. The Borgata one is kind of the biggest one because it's been protracted, right? They've got this long legal battle. And plus, Borgata had, in the past, went after Ivey in a lot of different ways. You might recall when he cashed the World Series of Poker, 50K Poker Players Championship a couple years back, maybe it was 3 years back. Borgata seized those winnings, had a U.S. Marshal order in Nevada, actually seized those winnings, went after his bank accounts in New Jersey, which I don't think there was anything. Same with Nevada. All the money that they won was wired offshore, which is something that was, revealed that Borgata actually wired the money to a bank account in Mexico. So they've known that the money left the United States, a while back. But they've been, coming after Ivey, looking to get some money back. And so that's why this is kind of different, whereas the rest of them, just haven't been so dogged about it, I guess.
I kind of like this settlement general concept, right? Where it's like, okay, nobody has to be the clear winner or loser here. Like, okay, maybe like we were a little wrong here, and like we'll give you a little something, and let's just like move on from this situation. Let's just move on.
It was Henry Clay, who was AKA the Great Compromiser, right? There's nothing wrong with a good compromise. We don't see it as much as we should these days, especially in this world that is so divided,
polarized,
if you will, right?
Yes.
But yeah, a little compromise. I like to see it. I'm glad that Borgata and Ivey have done it here. I don't know the exact details. There's going to be an article coming out on PokerNews.com sharing what we do know. But I, for one, am excited. I hope it means that Ivey now is more comfortable playing back in the United States, playing in a lot of events that we might see high rollers, at the Aria, World Series of Poker, obviously, maybe some other events as well. So I, for one, am happy to see it. And, I'm a big fan of the Borgata as well. We're doing a lot of updates there. We were, but we're still running poker tournaments and such, and hopefully we will be back to that at some point as well. So as somebody who loves the Borgata, as somebody who loves to see Phil Ivey playing in the poker world, I'm very happy by this news.
I'm with Chad 100% of the way. Could this kick down the door to seeing a lot more of Phil Ivey in the U.S., in Vegas, on all these live streams, save for the Triton ones, which he's been a big part of? But to Chad's point, Ivey could feel a lot more comfortable now about playing in the U.S., about moving back to Vegas potentially. There's a lot of potential here.
Well, we've got a lot of news to cover as the WSOP has officially kicked off. We've got some winners, we've got some deep runs, some interesting stories to go over. And in fact, this segment is going to be sponsored by GGpoker, where we're going to go over the WSOP.com online bracelet event winners and exciting stories to emerge from those tournaments. So we want to give a big shout out to GGpoker and just give them a big high five for sort of what they've done to shake up the poker world. And you guys definitely want to check out GGpoker if you're able to play, or if you're just planning on heading there to win a bracelet yourself. And by there, I mean like anywhere not in America, basically, where you can play, not Australia either, but where you can play legally. Go get you a bracelet. And if you use the code PokerNews, you're guaranteed to get yourself some extra promotions and bonuses. I know we told you guys last week you could use the code Daniel, but I highly recommend the code Pokernews instead, if you would. Well, let's talk about the event number one, the very first event of the series. And generally speaking, the first event of the series is at this price point, right? Which is normally the employee event, which we have a bracelet winner of that event right here with us, Chad Holloway. But this one was just a no limit hold'em kind of let's get it going. And word on the street is the man Hellmuth, after putting his home up at markup, ended up using his skills to run deep in this event. And Chad, you just talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he said, like, I'm ready to crush these online events. I feel really practiced, and that this is exactly, these tournaments were made for me. So was it any surprise to see him in this spot?
It wasn't. I was expecting him to go deep in, a couple events this summer, but to have it happen in the first bracelet event, in the kickoff event, when it had a massive field, 1,715 entries, I think it was just a great way to start off the 2020 World Series of Poker online event. Everybody was wondering how big the turnout would be. Jeff and I actually talked about that. We speculated where it could be anywhere from 500 to 2,000 runners. And so to get a 1,715 entry field, I think is a fantastic start. And it really set the pace, as the numbers between now and then have been, in my impression at least, have been impressive. And then to get Hellmuth going deep, like to energize the poker world and really get people excited about the WSOP.com events, I just thought it was great. Doing the reporting for it, I could feel how the excitement was building as he was going deeper. I was excited about it, reporting on it, doing the live updates. Unfortunately, he fell just short of making the final table, finished in 11th place. Still, like I said, it was very exciting. But then we got Tony Dunst making the final table, which was exciting as well. He's a big name, replaced Mike Sexton on the WPT when Sexton retired. And so he ends up going deep, finishes in 3rd place. In the end, it was Jonathan Dokler, known as Art Vandelay online. Not the biggest name, but certainly a name I've heard before. He's kind of one of those young guns that has started to come on. He won the Borgata Winter Poker Open High Roller back in January. I was actually there for that. And then he won one of those WSOP.com online Super Circuit series for $77,000 earlier this year as well. So he's got those 2 big victories, and here he wins the first bracelet of the 2020 WSOP.com. It was a great start in my opinion.
How about that? A $130K first place prize, just to go along with everything Chad was saying about such a massive field. That kind of prize for a $500 buy-in is exceptional. And I felt the buzz also. We felt it a little bit when we talked last week, as Chad mentioned, that at least within Vegas, people were kind of sort of getting fired up for this. Like, you could tell a lot of people were going to jump into the mix. But whenever you had the 15-time World Series of Poker bracelet winner Hellmuth run deep, there's just that electricity in the air, as corny as that may sound. So that's kind of like it was the, I guess, not perfect start, but close to it for the World Series of Poker. Tony Dunst, that guy, man. Poker commentator, just always crushes, and shows me up on the poker commentator, poker player rankings on a frequent basis.
Oh, Mr. Humility over here. Get out of here. Also, Taylor von Kriegenberg, who I haven't seen really or heard from in a while. I really love this, being able to see their, screen names, actual names instead, because Taylor, I feel like, was kind of popping off, for a while, maybe like 2012 or 2013, 2011, sometime like sort of early in my coming into the poker scene. Taylor von Kriegenberg was like one of the guys to watch, up and coming guy. It's good to see him still in the mix. Sometimes I wonder what happened to poker players. Where are they? And I think probably lots of them moved overseas, and now they are screen names, which you may never know if they're not traveling the circuit. The second event to follow the first event, just in case it wasn't exciting enough to have Hellmuth dominating in the first event, Daniel Negreanu comes out and busts out a deep run in the second event. What's the story?
Yeah, I mean, if you could choose two players you want to see make deep runs right away in the WSOP, you're going to probably choose Hellmuth and Negreanu. Just have it happen in back-to-back events was exciting. So the excitement that we felt in event number 1 for Hellmuth was repeated the next day with Negreanu. And of course, Negreanu is heavily involved this summer with these online bracelet events, both going to be playing WSOP.com. And then I think we're even going to see that more during the GGpoker portion for the international events, as he's going to be traveling to Mexico to play those. This one was exciting. In fact, a couple hands from this tournament made our Hands of the Week article that's up on Pokernews right now. And that was because we had two big hands, the first in which Negreanu got lucky, right? And we always think of Daniel Negreanu as thinking through hands, knowing what his opponents have, which he often does. He is one of the best poker players in the world, but this hand was indicative that even the best poker players in the world get lucky from time to time. It was a pretty standard hand, and he got it all in pre-flop with 9s against the pocket 10s of Matt Mendez, known as Mendy online, and he managed to find a 9. So I'm sorry, no, I misread that. That's when he busted. So that's the other hand. My apologies. He got it in with Queen Jack against Mark Ioli's King Queen. So he was dominated, finds a jack on the flop, doubles. So that's what really got everybody excited. Negreanu's got some chips. He just got lucky. Maybe he's going to win bracelet number 7. And then a level later, he gets the cooler against Mendez, runs the 9s into 10s, and cannot get lucky in that one. My apologies for mixing those two up. But yeah, the back-to-back kind of hands and back-to-back levels were exciting enough and disappointing enough, because he ultimately bowed out in 18th place, but still an exciting run nonetheless.
Negreanu's rolling, and he's been a big factor in creating this hype for the World Series of Poker, because, I mean, you guys said it, he's just so fired up to play. He's a GG ambassador, GGS WSOP International. We know how much Negreanu cherishes the bracelet. He has all his bracelet events. He's streaming once a day for an hour, no hole cards, but that means you get to effectively talk with Negreanu live. I think he's on like YouTube and Twitch and Periscope. He's just been all over the map, and he's had a couple of deep runs so far. And how about at this final table, won by Lewis Lynch for more than $168,000. Again, these prize pools are just absolutely absurd. 919 entries at a 1K price point. In 6th place, a man by the name of Haterade, and that would be one Jason Somerville. Sarah's Jay Carver back on the streets. He was not streaming. He was not on Twitch, which surprised me a little bit, but he did finish in 6th for $28K, and the man still got it.
Man, $28K, that hurts a little bit when you're cashing in 7th for like whatever measly, couple of thousand.
I know.
I have missed. So what is the scoop? Do you know any juicy gossip? Like, what's going on with Jason Somerville? I miss him. I miss his like energy in the scene.
I think he's taken a more behind the scenes role, but I don't know, chat.
Yeah, I think he, had a big interest in the sports betting world. That's where he was devoting a lot of his attention. So then when the pandemic hit, it really took away those avenues. It took away the Run It Up avenues as well. Run It Up Reno had been scheduled for April, but because of the pandemic, that had to be put on the back burner and be postponed. Hopefully there'll be a fall edition. But yeah, I think just the whole pandemic really just slowed things down for him, like it did for so many people, which is why it was exciting to see him make this final table. He kind of came out of nowhere down the stretch in that tournament, and then there he was competing for a bracelet. And I think it was indicative of what we've seen through the first week of the series so far, is that every day there seems to be kind of a marquee name making the final table, if you will. I know Roland Israelviji. I butchered that. I know.
I butcher it all the time. I still don't know how to say it.
I like to we used to call him Roland Israel. And,
that works.
So yeah, we'll just stick with that. But he made the final table of an event. Kevin McPhee, 2-time bracelet winner, former WSOP Europe champion, made a final table as well. Yeah, last night Jeff Platt, my man right here, making the final table, along with others on the. By the way, that was a tough final table, Jeff. You had Eric Baldwin to your left. I mean, that right there is a tough thing to deal with.
It was absolute torture. It was absolute max pain. And then I was like, you know what? that's kind of why we're here, right? That's why we play the World Series of Poker, to compete with the very best of the best. It would have made the bracelet feel that much better with Eric Baldwin, with Ian Steinman at this final table, with Blast from the Past again. How about Layne Flack finishing 13th last night in event number 7? He is Scoop 87. That is Layne back-to-back Flack in the mix, running deep at the World Series of Poker. Pretty cool.
There have been so many names, actually, just in going over, reviewing all of these last few tournaments. I'm just shocked every single one, both falling short of the final table, getting into the final table. It's just full of names that we know and recognize. So I think the love of poker and the threat of COVID was nothing to keep people away from this game.
Yeah.
Like the love of poker versus the threat of imminent death, poker wins every time. And I want to talk a little bit about event number 3 and sort of go through some of the other ones. But I wanted to also bring up for you guys, because I think there's so much going on and there's so many players and stories emerging from all these tournaments. And, Jeff mentioned that he's been streaming at night, which I might have heard rumors that you were doing that, Jeff, and I definitely intend to, now that I'm healthy again, to check it out. But Pokernews also has started a Discord server to create a space for you guys to engage with each other. I think that's something that a lot of fans and poker players in general talk about, is just, having a space to be able to connect with each other is one of the best ways to grow your poker game. And Discord is a space which gives you lots of different rooms, if you will, to discuss different topics. And also it gives, Pokernews a place to break stories and put in funny random things. Chad has been doing a whole series where he's getting poker players to send them pictures of their sort of grind stations. Yeah. Chad, do you want to talk a little bit about your experience thus far of the Discord server?
I mean, yeah, and with, I asked the poker pros to send me pictures, and that, that's what they send me. It's not maybe what I mean. Maybe I don't mean their grind station. Maybe just, hey, shoot me those pics. No, they've been great. The poker players have really responded. It just, I was thinking of ways, how can you spice up the coverage of online events? And you don't have a photographer taking pictures of players at the table. And so I decided to reach out to some players and ask them if they would help me out, send me some photos of them doing their thing, and players have been doing it, and that's been fantastic. A lot of those are in the blog, also a lot of those being tweeted out and whatnot. As for the Discord server, this was a new initiative we decided to do. Pokernews getting with the times a little bit. This is an online series, both WSOP.com and GGpoker. So for the next couple months, all the action in poker is going to be focused on these events, really. And so we wanted to come up with a place where those interested in participating can join, get in on the action without having to play. And Discord is a great opportunity to do that. It's a channel thing, a program I've been using a little bit more over the last year, so I'm really impressed with it. Interaction's been great. We just launched this thing less than a week ago. Players are starting to join. There's been some good communication, a lot of information being shared there, and it's free, right? It's absolutely free to join. Anybody interested in doing so, you can check out our social media to find the link. I'll share it here too in the show notes, but it's bit.ly/PokerNews Discord. So it's easy to get. It's a lot of fun, and we're going to be doing a lot of giveaways and exclusive promotions and things like that in this Discord server. So I highly recommend everybody check it out.
I just joined it, did it live right here on the Pokernews podcast. I am in the mix. This is so cool. We have a players lounge, a trophy room, a poker gossip, a bad beat, WSOP, GG, Nevada, New Jersey, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, this is awesome. I'm in on this one for sure.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Jeff, we got one more in the mix. I actually was shocked how many people are already in it. I thought it would take a little while to sort of take hold in the poker world, but it's already popping off. Well, let's talk a little bit about event number 3, which, it's just so nice to see. It was a $400 event with a $115K up top, which is, really for when you have the bracelet events going all summer long, right? And there's this one, you get 100,000, 200,000, 300, 400,000. From $400 to be able to have a first place prize takeaway of $115,000. That's really, really amazing. And that's exactly what the poker community needs after these months of being dry. And it was Robert bustinballs Kuhn who took that down. And I thought it was amazing looking at the notables who were eliminated. Ari Engel, we had sort of spoke about this a couple weeks ago, that basically, you know, when players create their accounts on WSOP.com or in New Jersey or in Nevada, that they might just say, find OMG Clay Aiken and decide to take that name.
Yeah.
Or that Ari Engel decided to take the name Phil Ivey. So I wonder how that's worked out for him. And it was good to see Mark Kuhn in the mix. And surprisingly, he did not choose PokerHo as his moniker. What's up with that?
Yeah, I mean, he came out from Wisconsin to grind some events, and he's playing under the screen name wiscomurray. And there, you know, is a sad story behind it. Everybody knows the PokerHo moniker. wiscomurray, Wisco portion of that was the screen name for a player back in Wisconsin who has since passed on, Mike Wiscomurray. So in a way to honor his friend, Mark Kuhn decided to play under the screen name wiscomurray, which I thought was you know, very touching and a big thing to do, because, you know, PokerHo is a well-known name in the poker world, and so he could have continued with that name, with that brand, that tradition, but instead he does this nice gesture to honor his friend. On the flip side of that, Sarah, real quick, you know, you mentioned some of these screen names, and we've joked now that WSOP is releasing the names associated with the screen names, at least for all those who are cashing in these events. You can't help but wonder if some of these players regret the names that they chose when they signed up. One that I get a kick out of every time I see it in the client is PP Poo Poo. It's just, yeah, there's a big handful of names that leave me shaking my head, but yeah, I don't know. It's going to be, I mean, there was one that's not necessarily funny. It was actually kind of concerning in a lot of ways, was COVID-19, who looked like it was COVID with a K, because it was Ryan Ko, you know, KO, who ended up finishing second in an event. We didn't know it was Ryan Ko at the time. Yeah. We just knew that there was a player named COVID-19 going deep. And yeah, like, it's, you know, COVID-19 wins World Series of Poker bracelet or whatever. It could have just been, you know, it could have been entertaining. It could have been a dumpster fire. And he ended up finishing second, so we kind of had to avoid those headlines. But yeah, just some weird things going on with the screen names, that's for sure.
So two things. Number one, I really hope that in the future, WSOP.com, at least for World Series of Poker bracelet events, can just shift to real names on the client. Would it make it easier for all of us? Sure, especially Chad and company, everybody taking care of the excellent live reporting. That'd be great. But I just think in an event like this, where you put a gold bracelet on the line, let's have real names. You know, GG does it for their big events. Party Poker has started to do it for their big events. Is PokerStars next? Probably. Like, let's use the real names. The second thing, Sarah, you mentioned Robert Kuhn winning this one. Bustinballs, another creative screen name, to say the least. You would like this, Sarah, because there was a bit of drama behind this one, as Robert Kuhn and our guy Matt Berkey from Solve for Why were involved in a bit of a Twitter feud. Long story short, Berkey criticized Kuhn's play on a live stream. It got back to Robert Kuhn. He and Berkey went back and forth on Twitter. They jawed at each other for a while. They proposed, you know, some prop bets. Kuhn wanted to challenge Berkey to like 3 months worth of MTTs. Berkey's like, dude, I don't grind tournaments all day, but you know, I'd be happy to play you in high stakes cash, which you like to play. I'd be happy to select certain tournaments. So they still go back and forth. They still jaw at each other. And for event number 3, David Tuckman has a guest every single night on commentary. And his guest that night was Matt Berkey. And the winner of this event was Robert Kuhn. And Berkey, of course, as we expected, was an absolute class act through and through, throughout commentary. Continued to compliment Robert Kuhn on his amazing day. And I just thought that, you know, that was kind of perfect timing for Kuhn, not only to win a bracelet, but to do it when Matt Berkey is on commentary, it had to feel really good. And it was probably max pain for our guy Berkey, not only seeing him win a bracelet, but having to be on the call as well.
Something else about that particular broadcast that I think is noteworthy is the WSOP and David Tuckman, who are doing the streams of the WSOP, made a change thereafter with the broadcast. So they were actually streaming and commentating in real time, but opted after that broadcast to institute, I think it's a 2-minute delay on the stream. And one of the reasons, or the big reason for that, is because of Berkey and his excellent commentary, right? And so the realization struck that maybe the players are actually watching the stream on the side as they play. They're listening to Berkey give this excellent advice that could impact the action, that could influence the action with certain players. And in an effort to avoid that, they decided to institute the delay, which I think was a wise idea. And kudos to them for recognizing it and implementing it shortly thereafter.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, hey, let's just have a pro in your ear while you're playing the hand, giving you all of the best moves. Well, we have an exciting guest this week. Chad talked to Matt Bode, who won event number 4, which was a 500 no limit hold'em Super Turbo. Chad, you want to talk a little bit and just throw us into your interview?
Yeah, this one is an event that took place on the 4th of July. The WSOP knew it's a big holiday. We don't want players playing forever, so it was a Super Turbo 6-minute levels, 1,179 entry field. So it went from almost 1,200 entries to a winner in just shy of 6 hours. And it was Matt Bode who came out on top of that tournament. Bodester is his name. He won it for $97,000. He was playing from New Jersey in his dad's basement. He was visiting so he could play. He tweeted a picture of it. And what was really pretty cool about this whole thing, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk to him, was that on June 29th, so even before the WSOP Online began, he had tweeted, "Here goes to becoming a secret online crusher using PO solver programs, poker coaching sites, backers, and Discord to ship a bracelet. No retweets when this ages well."
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then he actually does it, and I'm like, okay, not only is that a great story, here is clearly a secret online crusher that we really didn't know much about in the poker world. So it was important for me to reach out to see if I could talk to him, and he was kind enough to spare some time for a winner's interview. Here it is with Matt Bode. All right, I am joined by our guest this week, a recent World Series of Poker online bracelet winner. Took down event number 4, the $500 buy-in, Super Turbo on the 4th of July, 1,179 entries. Took just shy of 6 hours of play, and coming out on top was Matt Bode, known online as Bodester. Matt, congratulations on that win, man.
Thanks, Chad. I appreciate it. It's been a pretty crazy last couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine it was a super fast tournament. For one, what was it like to experience a WSOP bracelet win in kind of such a short period of time, and a turbo like that event number 4 was?
It happened so fast. Like, I can't explain how fast it actually happened in lifetime. Because then, looking back at it, it happened even faster. If that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. I was doing the updates for Pokernews, so I know how fast it went. We were struggling just to keep up with, with all the eliminations. And it was actually a pretty tough final table. You had some guys there like Ryan Dodd, 2-time bracelet winner Kevin McPhee, some other familiar names. You ended up defeating Brian Frasca in heads-up play. What was the whole final table experience like for you?
Honestly, I feel like a lot of those guys, they're overhyped, and the new set of online grinders that are coming in know these charts and know these solvers way better than a lot of those guys. I thought a lot of those pros made a bunch of mistakes at the final table, to be honest.
Well, let's talk about that, because you actually had a tweet, which I thought was a great part of your story. Back at the end of June, you said, tweeted, here goes to becoming a secret online crusher using PO solvers, programs, poker coaching sites, backers, and Discord to ship a bracelet. No retweets when this ages well. obviously it aged really, really well. And I mean, so is that your story? You're a secret online crusher that knows all your solvers and charts?
Yeah, I've been grinding ACR for a little bit now, and I know a lot of those pros know me on there, and they kind of stay away from me in a lot of spots. And it's kind of been like a hidden, like with Borgata not having like screen names and stuff, it's like you kind of bink, and people don't really know about it, you know?
Right. Well, I mean, we certainly know about you now, winning a World Series of Poker bracelet. For those, like myself who don't know too much about you, can you share a little bit, how old are you, where are you from, and some things like that?
Yeah, I'm a Frisbee player. That's my MO. I've been playing Frisbee for the last, almost 15 years and won a world championship playing Ultimate Frisbee. And one of my good buddies is Leaf Force and, another Frisbee player in the poker community and stuff. But I started playing poker back, I want to say I was like 12 years old when I made my first party poker account and like had a bankroll just by like referring friends, if that makes sense. That was kind of the thing to do back then before tilt. And I was a pretty good sit and go player, and that's where the Bode name came. And I would play like 9-man sit and go, $11 and like break even at like, from when I was like 12 to 14 years old, just knowing ICM push fold spots.
And how old are you now?
I'm 29 now. So then, I then played tilt for a little bit, and it was more like one of those guys, like a micro guy that would try and like run up a stack or like run up an account from free rolls back then. And play like those big donkiments that they had that were like, a ton of fun on tilt. And, when I turned 18, I drove up to the Turning Stone with one of my best friends, and I like won my first poker tournament then. The weekend I turned 18, I drove up to the Turning Stone and like won a tournament. And then, I didn't play for a little bit and kind of like focused on other things like school and all that, and just kind of was like a little bit of a cash grinder. And then when I turned, I guess in 2012, Parks opened, I think. And my brother became like a full-time like cash game pro, and like, just playing 1-2 and 2-5 and being able to beat those games. And he made me play in a tournament on Christmas Eve in like 2012, and I hadn't played in a while, and we took first and second at Parks.
Nice.
Which was pretty cool for like brothers to do that, because we like took like 70% of the prize pool or something crazy like that,
So did you guys end up? Did you guys chop, or did one of you get the better of the other?
He got the better of me. He at the time he was a lot better than me, and to this day he's a way better cash game guy than I am. But I kind of took over the MTT reins, and he knows that. But then so I stopped playing poker. Really, I like won a bunch of money then. And I was like, well, I don't need to play for a little bit, and kind of like continued on with the Frisbee grind. And it wasn't until DePaulo making a deep run in the Venom, me being like, these guys suck and I need to start playing more poker. And DePaulo kind of got me back into it with like a Twitch stream. Like I don't know how I stumbled upon it. And I was like, oh, this is hilarious. And then I kind of figured out ACR, and I hit up Leaf about like playing a little bit more. And then I did a Cherokee circuit run with Leaf and got absolutely demolished. Like went kings to aces, I think 3 times on the weekend. It was like, I got crushed so bad. I walked away with my tail between my legs. And then I like started grinding like a shit ton online. And got like a coach and a little bit of a backing, like, you know what I mean? With Leaf's help, and like got enough guys behind me to like teach me exactly what I need to do. Cause they all knew I had the edge over a lot of these people, cause I wasn't scared to push fold a lot. And like make that extra like raise over the top, like, and sniff out weakness and just stuff it on people.
Sure.
So with that edge alone, they like were like, we need to teach you more and more and more. So then I like, obviously I've learned GTO and all that nonsense, and I've just like kind of piled my own game into that a little bit. And then I just like, at this point I like knowing Leaf, and he's like, the tightest pro out, he's like this little nit in the corner. And I just kind of use that as like, oh, this is another Nitty-Pro, and just like stuff it on. It seems to be, they just all fold. And then your red line just goes straight upwards. and these people are playing with red lines going straight downwards, and it makes a big difference,
right.
you know?
So you're out there on the East Coast, which means you're playing from New Jersey, I assume.
Yeah. I went and played in my dad's basement. I actually live in Durham, North Carolina, and drove up and just went for the weekend. Funny story, I had about $5,000 to my name before this thing, and just went with it.
Yeah, now you won it for $97,000, which is a nice chunk of change.
Yeah.
So are you going to be playing any more of these WSOP events? If you said you traveled up, it sounds like you're back home now.
Yeah, I back home. I might actually be leaving tomorrow morning to go play the 500 freeze out by Wednesday. I'm not totally sure yet. And then I might fly to Vegas to meet up with Leaf and that crowd of people to play the rest of the series and see how I go. Or I may just call it a quits, and I'm not totally sure yet. I'm gonna have to figure that out after. I got a life still, so I got to figure out all that, But yeah, but I know I'm good enough to hang in this crowd and with all these pros and stuff, and I know I need to be Spaghetti to my left. He basically gave me the tournament by just folding all those big spots,
Right. You're an online guy, obviously a lot of online experience. I looked at your Hendon mob, after you had won, not much in the live realm. And so I wanted to just ask real quick, this is a WSOP online series. They've given out online bracelet events in the past, but not as part of a huge series. And, the focus this summer is really on these online events. So as an online player, what does it mean to you to win a WSOP bracelet in an online event?
Well, I think it was this is how I was going to win one. If I was going to win one, it would be just like this, because I knew I'd have a full-blown edge on all of those guys that aren't sitting in front of their computers for 7 hours every night, grinding out ACR and Borgata, and the guys that are trying to sit in front of their computers and do that, they're playing on sites like WhatsApp and PokerStars that are super weak right now, and they're not playing against the best players in the world, so they're not getting that extra bit of experience in these big moments. And I think that showed in that tournament, because that tournament came down to people having 6 big blinds at the final table. I think the big stack was 8 big blinds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With 5 people left. And none of those guys were playing ninja poker. They were folding out for ICM pressure when there's a bracelet on the line. It didn't make sense to me. I was looking around oh my gosh, no one wants to play poker right now.
Well,
so I'm of course I'm going to start jamming my 10-7 offs and my queen 7 suited and all that when they're only calling me with ace X and things like that,
Right. Well, it obviously worked out well. You're the last player standing. You got a bracelet to your name. One of the things I love, like I said, after the fact, you immediately retweeted your tweet from June 29th about, no retweets when this age as well. I retweeted it then from the Pokernews account. I don't know. It's just, I think you called your shot and you got it. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I on the calling the shot thing, I think that's a thing with poker. I think that's a big part of, if you want to actually do well in this sport, is you have to have that mental ability to kind of will it when it needs to be willed. And if you're not having that mindset, you're really not getting those big wins and those big spots as much. I feel I think that the calling it and the knowing when it's coming and that aspect of understanding your chart and all of that, because I've been stagnant for almost 3.5 months, so I knew it was coming. I just what tournament is it going to come,
Well, and then one of the other things I liked is you immediately updated your Twitter profile to say WSOP bracelet champion, and a well-deserved one at that.
Yeah, I had to do it. I guess I'm made now. I don't know how else to put in. I don't really know what I have to do next besides try and catch up to Phil, and just put my head down and try and take Hellmuth in 25 years at a heads-up match when he's no longer can walk and looks like Doyle.
Well, there you go. They say there's 2 types of players, poker players, those with the bracelet and those without. You are now one of those with a bracelet, and those interested in continuing to follow Matt Bode's journey, you can follow him on Twitter at Matt_Bode. That's BODE 79. So once again, at Matt_Bode 79. Matt, congratulations, and thanks for taking the time to chat with us here at Pokernews.
Of course, Chad. You have a great one, and appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Well, of course, with all the news being WSOP bracelets, we cannot leave out our sponsors and friends of the podcast for years now. Run It Once. These guys are running an exceptional site that really takes into account players, what's best for players, and what's best for the community as a whole. Of course, our man Phil Galfond is the man behind the helm, the leader of that ship, and also someone who we just, I think, as the poker world, kind of love. He's got a lot of stuff going on. More, in fact, we may want to talk about that at some point. Also, we've got more challenges from the Phil Galfond coming in the next few months. He's not going to let that go. But you guys can get a first deposit bonus if you go to once.run/PNPod, once.run/PNPod. Now, Chad, we've got a couple more winners to talk about if you want to just bang those out. And then we can get to the juicy. We've got like 3 or 4 juicies in this podcast. We got some Mike Matusow action, so you guys do not want to go away. Chad, let us know what happened in the other couple of events.
Yeah, event number 5 was a $1,000 no limit hold'em freeze out tournament. Got 854 players. This is a freeze out, so those are all unique. Great turnout. Over $800,000 in the prize pool. Was won by Alan Chang, known as ACNYC718 online for $161,000. Event number 6 was exciting. It was the 600 PLO 8 six-handed, so it was the first non-limit or non-hold'em tournament rather on the schedule. There's very few of those, so this one was exciting. It got 833 entries, and it was won by Nathan Gamble, known as Surf Bum, for just shy of $90,000. And what was exciting about this one is he had previously won a WSOP bracelet in a PLO 8 event in the live realm. So this was our first occasion of having a former bracelet winner capture his second, and doing it in an online event. So I just thought that was a cool story. I'm sure we're going to see it more throughout the 2020 WSOP online, but Nathan Gamble takes first honors. And then, of course, last night, event number 7, our man Jeff Platt was at the final table, finished in 7th place. He was eliminated by the eventual winner, June Kim, known as JYK Poker, won it for $103,000. Jeff, I don't know how you feel about it. I know, for one, when I get eliminated from a tournament and the guy goes on to win it, I'm like, all right, at least I got eliminated by the winner. At least he put the chips to good use, so to speak.
I haven't thought about it that way. I've still been
just been bitter and angry about it.
Well, I've just been walking around in circles in my house for the last 7 hours or so since the tournament ended. But I like putting that spin on it. I did bust to the eventual World Series of Poker bracelet winner, June Kim, winning more than $100,000. Yeah, I'll take that. Thank you, Chad. I appreciate that. Well, by the way, let me say real quick, Chad, I think you and your guys, Anthony, and I think Brandon also was in the mix yesterday. I think you guys have done an absolutely incredible job. I cannot, and I swear I'm not just saying this because I'm on the podcast with you, but I can't imagine what it's like to live report an online tournament with the way the action moves. Everything is just so quick. And to have any kind of updates is phenomenal. To have these is better than that. So kudos to you and your team.
Certainly appreciate it. And anybody listening that wants to follow those updates, we're going to be doing them every day, not only from WSOP.com throughout July, but throughout the entirety of the 2020 WSOP. So GGpoker as well. Every single event will be live reported. Just go to pokernews.com, look at the top bar. There'll be an easy link to click. Real quick, through the first 7 events of the 2020 WSOP.com bracelet events, they have catered to 8,580 entries and awarded just shy of $5 million in prize money. So I think that's a pretty strong start through the first 7 events. And if you would have told me those numbers heading into it, I would have certainly taken the under on both. So certainly a great start.
Poker is alive, folks. And if for no other reason than for things such as Mike Matusow. That's right. I'm getting into him. It should come as no surprise that whether you like him or not, and this is the job of any true heel in whatever industry you're in, He has decided to, of course, play the WSOP.com online series, and he has been streaming on his YouTube channel. He was, I want to say, a little late to the party in terms of vlogging, but I know he was vlogging last summer, made some real gems, which we highlighted in some of our own videos, and he's now joined the streaming party. And thousands of viewers have tuned in to watch, because whether you love him or hate him, he's entertaining. For the most part, I think most people could say that. I find him entertaining and extra. But essentially what went down is, in this freeze out tournament, which Chad was talking about, it turned out that Mike busted from this tournament in kind of, I mean, I think it's pretty universally understood that he kind of just played pretty bad in this spot. Maybe, Jeff, maybe you can, as an expert, say this is just probably a really bad play?
Well, it'd be very hard. You know, poker, it's like you can make a bunch of arguments for a bunch of different plays, right? At this play, it's just very hard to argue. So I'll set the scene real quick, and then maybe Chad can recap the Matusow rage, and we can share our thoughts about that. So again, 1K no limit freeze out. Mike Matusow is in the big blind here. It folds around to Wolverine 17, who we know is Megan Milburn in the small blind. She opens. Matusow 3-bets with the ace queen in the big blind. All standard so far, right? Megan Milburn decides to call. The flop came 10-9 deuce, I think. Megan checked in the small blind. Again, Mike has ace queen in the big blind. All pretty standard so far. Megan checks. Matusow just shoves. He overbet shoves for, like, was it 2x pot, 2.5x pot, something like that. Very, very strange play with the ace queen. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. I guess you get some more folds than you would if you just normally c-bet it. I don't know. It's kind of weird. So Megan Milburn had set the trap with pocket aces. She waited a while. Maybe she was playing other tables. Maybe she was thinking through a spot in a 1K freeze out and just making sure this was right. She did quick call. Matusow did not hit runner. Matusow went busto from the tournament. And then, Chad Holloway, the rage began, the fury from one Mike Matusow.
Which, by the way, we must also at least just say that he also was mad because he didn't realize that it was a freeze out, which is kind of your responsibility, I feel like, as a poker player when you're putting $1,000 into something. It's to just know what your options are. But moving beyond that part to the rage part.
You know, and a warning to those listening that some explicit language is about to follow. So you may want to, you got young children in your car nearby, put it on mute real quick or skip ahead a minute or so. This was all captured on the live stream, so it's out there if you want to see it play out. But Matusow kind of let this simmer a little bit. I think he was upset that he didn't realize it was a freeze out. Maybe he's upset about the move that he made. And I think he kind of used, Megan Milburn taking a few seconds to call as a slow roll. I didn't really interpret it as a slow roll when I watched it back. But he kind of, you could see it start to boil and simmer. And then he finally kind of explodes on the stream. He goes off. He says, "This motherfucker, I'm going to fuck him right in his fucking ass, man. Mark that name down. Wolverine 17. What the fuck is wrong with these fucking people? I'm going to find out who the motherfucker is, and I swear to you, I'm going to throw him up against the fucking wall and tell him, if you ever slow roll me again, I'm going to beat your fucking ass." And then he takes it up another notch. This is playing out over the course of a couple minutes. He says, if anybody in here talking to his audience can find out the name of this guy, you guys will get an extra $50 bonus if you sign up for my home game. Normally, anybody on the stream would get $250 for 200 of their initial sign up. They'll get $300. I hate fucking scumbags in poker. People like him make people not want to play poker, which to me is a great irony, Mike, because this is a scumbag thing to do and say. And in my opinion, what you are doing here that makes people not want to play poker. Obviously, when he was going off like this, he didn't know who Wolverine 17 was. When he learned that it was a female, he kept it up. He tweeted, "I won't hit no woman. I'll just call her a C word that she is when I see her." I think he since
I won't hit no woman.
But yeah,
and he since deleted that tweet, I believe, and then he says once the poker world kind of started harping on him, and rightfully so, his disgusting reaction and what he had to say. He did say that he is sorry for saying what he did. He took down the tweet and that he apologized to her privately. To her credit, Meg Milish is known on Twitter actually at Poker Hippie. What responded to Mike Matusow's tweet was just
Poker Hippie,
which is responded, "LOL, it wasn't intentional. The next one might be though." Emoji face. And so kudos to her for handling it the way she did. Shame on Mike Matusow for behaving in the manner that he did. It didn't reflect well on himself. It certainly wasn't doing poker any favors, and it opened an interesting discussion about what should happen from this. Should he be punished by the World Series of Poker? Some people say yes, others say no. I tend to, by no means is this a defense of Mike Matusow and what he did, but it's an interesting spot because he had busted the tournament technically. He's no longer playing a WSOP event, and he's not doing these and saying these things in a WSOP-related chat or a platform that they control. This is his own private YouTube channel, and so it's certainly a slippery slope if the WSOP were to get involved. Now, the WSOP did issue a statement that they certainly don't condone what Mike said, that they would like to work with these sort of platforms like YouTube and Twitch to ensure that things are managed, if you will. But as far as banning Matusow, reprimanding Matusow, I don't think anything like that's going to happen. A lot of people would like to see it happen. I'm not so sure if it should. I don't know what you guys think about it.
Well,
absolutely not. Are you insane? I'm just what do we need? A babysitter now to make sure that everyone feels safe? And actually, that's interesting because it is such a there's such a disconnect really between it's really a showcase, I think, of sort of what poker may have once been and where it is now, and really maybe the world in general. We've there's a vast distance between what was okay and appropriate to say and things in maybe the 70s that's really not okay or acceptable now. But Mike was living during the 70s and playing poker when we didn't even have diapers yet. So I'm kind of okay, he's a maniac. We all know he's a little bit of a maniac, but it's not our job to police people's YouTubes and make sure they're not maniacs, or else who is Mike Matusow without this? What a snooze fest if he's just oh, it's okay, sweetie, moving on.
No, I don't always agree with a lot of what Matusow does and says, but he is certainly a poker character. There's no denying that. And I think the issue is that in this case, he's targeting somebody. He's targeting an individual, whereas a lot of the times with a Hellmuth blow up or something, he's just blowing up in his own world. He's not necessarily attacking a player. Now, Hellmuth has done that before, and he's been chastised and reprimanded for it before, So I think both him and Matusow struggle in that regard. I'd love to see Matusow lose his shit, be really upset, be angry, maybe go on a rant, as long as it's not, directed and focused and targeted at somebody.
Yeah,
he is in, I'm sorry, can we just say that he is in a scooter? He can't even walk. So is this really a threat? Are we actually experiencing a threat here?
And if he did say this, which he certainly would not, let's imagine a live World Series of Poker where the exact same thing happens. Matusow's blow up is much more like Chad said it would be. He would just get really mad. There's no way he would threaten the person. There's no way he would use the C word. But if he did, he would be penalized by the World Series of Poker, and he'd be penalized pretty harshly. I agree with what Ty Stewart from the World Series of Poker told Pocket Fives' Lance Bradley. He said, but the regulation of content on our customers' personal streams and social media accounts is a, quote, slippery slope. Because, if you do penalize Matusow for this, like Sarah said, what do you have to watch everybody's streams now? With that said, Matusow's rant was despicable, to say the very least. It's absolutely unacceptable. It's terrible for poker to use that kind of language that kind of degrading language towards a woman. It awful for the game in every sense of the word. And part of me like looks at the World Series of Poker as a sport of sorts. If an NBA player was live streaming a video game or something and came out and said something like this, he would get fined. He would get suspended. No question about it. Is there any kind of like quote unquote unsportsmanlike conduct fine that we could implement in the future? Just if this kind of thing keeps popping up from the Mike Matusows of the world, because sure, they're not employed by the World Series of Poker, which is going to end up making the difference, but they're making their money from poker. They're representing the WSOP. He's on a big stage of sorts. I don't know. I just wish something could
YouTube though, even what Ty is saying, I mean, you can't say anything on YouTube anymore that's like even moderately controversial without being like, you know, ban hammered from YouTube. So for me, I'm just like, you can't speak like this on YouTube anyways. So to me, he more than likely will be punished probably anyways, like from YouTube or from another platform. I don't really think actually it's very possible in this day and age to speak like this without having some sort of crazy backlash or without being shut down by whatever platform you were broadcasting on. So I do think, I mean, everyone knows I also think that sucks. I think you should be able to say more things and be more free, but you know, I think it's very clear in this day and age, both on Twitter and YouTube and basically any platform, you can't just say whatever you want. And I think threatening things certainly falls under the category of you will get your channel taken off. And that's money, right? Not very much, but like.
No, but if you were to average what Matusow's been averaging, like 1,500 to 2,000 viewers every single day that you're on YouTube, I mean, you're going to make some money off of that for sure. I don't know what it is exactly, but there's certainly money to be made. There's potential there, and hopefully that, you know, gets ripped away from them.
I just want to say also though, just a little hysterical thing that I think is really funny is like, we all know Mike Matusow, and he's like, we know with Hellmuth and whatever, like they say a lot of things and they have very clearly maybe some emotional issues. But I love how he's like, my followers, I'll give you $50 if you find out who this person, like he's like an Italian mafioso or something. Like, I'll find you and I'll track you down. And like, I've got people in your city. I've got people everywhere. Like, I was like, when he started saying like to go like use his people to figure out, you know, who this person was, I was crying, like reading the thing. It's so funny. And it's so like old school. Like, I get that you shouldn't threaten people. I totally do. And especially if I was, you know, at YouTube and monitoring, you know, what should and shouldn't be. But if you just know Mike Matusow and you just know that like really he's in a like little wheelie chair and he has to take medicine just to like wake up in the morning, this whole rant and the whole thing is just like this hysterical sort of fantasy something that it's just glorious entertainment from my perspective, from the media perspective, from the outside. And I hate to see us shut this kind of thing down, because as fun as snowflakes are, they're just not quite as interesting for the juicy tidbits, you know. And also the Wolverine, like she was like, okay, cool, whatever.
She was awesome.
Like,
she was the coolest part of this. Yeah. Megan Milburn was the coolest part of this by an absolute mile. That's for sure.
And I love the picture, even in the Pokernews article. Like she's just smiling. She looks adorable and fun and happy. Like he just looks like such an ass, like such a bad guy. And I will say also, though, I did appreciate the poker community overall. It is something that I just enjoy and appreciate about the poker community is like the ability to just have rational discussions about things. And I thought Ari Engel's response was really solid. You know, I really appreciate when people are able to sort of remove the emotional kind of, I think, easy and obvious response or backlash to something like this and just be like, hey, just be a bigger person, dude. Like, why not apologize?
But with Matusow, we just see it time and time and time.
It'll never change.
That much is true. It's like, you know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 34 times, or whatever it is. Yeah.
Well,
So it's
the good news is that one of the consequences Mike is going to have to suffer from this is it's going to have the exact opposite of what he wanted.
Roll.
Yeah, people.
Yeah. I cannot wait to slow. Chad, if you get at a table with Matusow today, I know you have the day off. You're firing the 500. You better slow roll him if you are given the opportunity. I've been waiting for it as well, for mouth 1, 2, 3 to pop up at my table, and I cannot wait to use every single second of the time bank with the Stone Cold Nuts.
We're so true.
I'm right there with you, and I think a lot of people are.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like there's got to be some sort of, reward, financial reward. I feel like the poker community as a whole needs to be like, okay, $50 every time someone slow rolls. Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. It's good. I love it. All right, guys. Well, this was a lot this week, and there's going to be a lot, I think, for the coming months, which is great and exciting, and lots of, I think, fun and interesting stuff happening in poker. What do you have going on this next week, Chad? Living in an Airbnb, watching a bunch of streams?
Yeah, I mean, it's July in Vegas, but in an apartment for the WSOP for the most part. I actually got a few days off here. Jeff mentioned today being the first of them, so I'm going to fire a couple of events, try to follow in his footsteps and make a deep run. That would be special, but I'm certainly excited about that. Having watched for a week straight now, to actually get my feet wet and participate is something I'm certainly looking forward to. And who knows, maybe this time next week when we have the next episode of the Pokernews podcast, maybe I'll be able to share a little something fun, or maybe even Jeff will do something again between now and then. Maybe get some points, Jeff, for the player of the series or the leaderboard that they have.
Okay, that sounds good to me. You say it. Let's do it. Let's both final table today. I think we can get there. Sounds pretty easy.
I mean, it's one of the other awesome things about having the World Series be online is that people who work for Pokernews can play bracelet events, which hasn't happened for almost,
Which is a whole nother tangent, which we don't have time for.
We can hit that at some point, but I'm happy to see you being able to play, and of course you also, Jeff. And again, you guys want to check out the Pokernews Discord, bit.ly/Pokernews Discord, and also check out Jeff Platt's Twitch at 10 p.m. Pacific, you said?
Yes, ma'am. Twitch.
Get it going, boys.
Let's do it.
And find Chad Holloway every time you can when you're going to be doing the stream. All right, you guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Like, rate, review, tell everyone you love us. I came back from the Rona for this episode, so I hope you guys know, like, we don't quit on this Pokernews podcast. Deuces.
Get better soon.
The key to winning big is using every little bit of knowledge to your advantage. At Odds Checker, we give you the edge. Better odds, better picks, and better offers to make you a better bettor. Why settle for less? Quickly compare the odds at every sportsbook to ensure that you're getting the best price to maximize your return. Not only that, but we have experts on every sport, from hoops and football through to soccer and boxing. Our experts analyze the form and study the stats to deliver you totally free picks and parlays. OddsChecker also highlights the most lucrative welcome offers in the industry. If you're looking to open an account, then you are eligible for hundreds of dollars in totally free bets. If you're new to legal sports betting, then we're here to help, offering simple advice to understand betting guides and updates on your state's current legislative situation. Visit us at www.oddschecker.com/US. OddsChecker. Sports betting smarter.